Let's start with a harsh truth. You don't need more time, you need to stop wasting the time you have. Think about this. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor wrote himself a private journal, not for fame, not for followers, but literally just to survive and master his own mind. That emperor was Marcus Aurelius. He was dealing with immense stress. We're talking fighting off barbarians, enduring a literal plague, and tolerating a scheming political court. Welcome to this explainer on 7 Stoic lessons that will change how you think. Let's dive right in.
So, like I just said, you do not need more time. You need to stop wasting the time you have. It's so incredibly common these days to feel like the clock is always working against us, right? Like there are just never enough hours in the day. But the ancient Stoics, well, they view time management completely differently. They realized the problem wasn't the amount of time we're given, but how we actually choose to spend it.
The philosopher Seneca absolutely hit the nail on the head here. He noted that life only feels brief because of our fast-paced distractions, endless social obligations, and, chasing things that just don't matter. We kind of wrap ourselves up in escapism, hoping to put off our real responsibilities. We act like time is infinite, day trading our most valuable commodity away on mindless scrolling or stressing over the future, instead of actually living in the present. Okay, let's move into our first core theme. Master your own mind. And this kicks off with Lesson 1. You control your reaction, not the event.
So this is the absolute foundation of Stoicism. It's a concept popularized by the philosopher Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. Imagine sorting literally everything in your life into 2 piles. Over on the left, pile A, we have externals, stuff that happens to you. This is the weather, traffic, the economy, what other people do. You don't control that. Over on the right, pile B, we have internals, how you respond, your opinions, your motivation, your choices. If your happiness depends on pile A, well, you're a hostage to luck. But if you focus entirely on pile B, you become invincible.
To build what the Stoics called your inner citadel, you can apply these 3 practical steps. First, separate the event from your impression of it. That traffic jam, it isn't causing you stress. Your judgment about the traffic is causing you stress. Second, ask the sorting question. Is this up to me? And third, act on your pile and completely release the rest. Focus all your metabolic energy on your own actions instead of stressing over outcomes that belong to the universe.
This brings us to shielding your inner peace, which covers Lesson 2 on complaining and Lesson 4 on opinions.
These are essentially the 2 biggest leaks in our mental energy reserves, and plugging them is absolutely crucial. Lesson 2 reminds us that complaining is wasted energy. Every single minute spent complaining about the unalterable past or your current circumstances is a minute not spent fixing the problem. And as for Lesson 4, other people's opinions are quite literally none of your business. You cannot control what people think of you, so stop trying to. It's an impossible game that's only going to leave you exhausted.
Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we simply don't have to have an opinion on everything. You don't have to turn it into something. Actually, modern cognitive behavioral therapy mirrors this Stoic principle exactly. It teaches us to reframe negative thoughts and protect our ego from taking offense. When someone insults you or a big plan falls through, you possess the superpower to simply say, I'm choosing not to be upset by this.
Moving right along to the urgency of now. Lesson 3. Death makes life urgent, not depressing.
We almost always avoid thinking about our own mortality, right? But the Stoics actively leaned into an ancient practice called memento mori, literally, remember you must die. Knowing your time is limited isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to make you actually live today. When you realize you could leave life right now, it completely strips away the fear of embarrassment or failure. You stop worrying about taking risks or what society expects of you, because compared to the finality of death, you already have absolutely nothing to lose. So I want you to ask yourself right now, if you died tomorrow, what are you wasting today? Are you staying in a job you hate? Are you holding on to some silly grudge? Are you putting off your dreams for some magical later? This question ensures you aren't sacrificing your present happiness for an uncertain future. You really must live immediately.
Let's transition to the price of growth. Lesson 5, discomfort is the price of growth.
Think about this. If you look at history, every single person you admire chose difficulty on purpose. The ancient thinkers recognized that we are naturally wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, so they intentionally practiced what we call voluntary discomfort. Marcus Aurelius actually learned to sleep on a rough hide blanket on a hard camp bed. Seneca would routinely spend a few days eating only the plainest food and wearing rough clothes. They did this to build real mental toughness, so that when actual tragedy struck, their minds wouldn't just shatter from the loss of luxury.
And you can easily practice this today. First, choose a minor difficulty. Take a cold shower, fast for a day, or even just delete social media for a weekend. Second, endure that inevitable burning urge to quit. And third, reflect and realize you survived. You're teaching your brain that you are infinitely stronger than your immediate impulses and cravings.
All right, let's dive into our final phase, the freedom of discipline, covering Lesson 6 on silence and Lesson 7 on habits.
Lesson 6 teaches us something incredibly powerful. Silence is a weapon. We live in a society that is so loud, where everyone constantly wants to win the argument or have the last word. But in highly emotional, stressful moments, anger is basically temporary insanity. The less you react, the more power you keep. Silence is your absolute strongest defense mechanism against saying something you'll forever regret.
The philosopher Zeno offers a timeless reminder here. It is far better to trip with the feet than the tongue. Just taking a breath and counting to 3 before responding to an insult or an annoyance? That prevents us from causing irreversible damage to our relationships. It's a brilliant, simple trick for overcoming our ego's desperate need to immediately defend itself. And this builds perfectly into discipline. Long before modern neuroscientists mapped out the habit loop, Epictetus knew that to break a wretched habit, you can't just stop doing it. You actually have to replace the routine. For example, if stress is your trigger and your habit is anger, you must actively substitute a new behavior, like, say, going for a quick walk, to reclaim your agency.
Which brings us to Lesson 7. Discipline is freedom. The person who controls their habits controls their life. The Stoics were practically obsessed with daily routines. Waking up early and welcoming the dawn, starting a nightly journaling habit to review your mistakes, reading master thinkers instead of doom scrolling, taking strategic walks. You assemble your life action by action. And these small adjustments, they lead to massive transformations.
As modern research, psychology, and cognitive behavioral therapy continue to prove, these aren't just old ideas from dusty books. They are highly practical survival tools for our chaotic modern world. Whether it's mindfulness or rational emotion regulation, science confirms that mastering your desires, defining what is in your control, and living a disciplined life directly builds unmatched emotional resilience.
So I leave you with this final provocative question. Which of these 7 survival tools do you need most right now? Which one are you going to implement today to stop wasting time and start mastering your mind? Let me know below in the comments. And if this explainer hit different, be sure to subscribe because this is really just the beginning.